I listed out 3 films that I could have watched in the time that I spent watching Gerbert. I could have watched Pan's Labyrinth. I could have watched Doctor Strangelove, or I could have watched Yojimbo, which I have been like meaning to get around to. And instead I watched this little orange freak.
Is that a problem? It sounds like
watched Yojimbo. Eat your heart out, Ernest Hemingway.
It sounds like you need to stop worrying and learn to love the Gerb.
I would agree. Yeah.
I felt like I'd been Gerb stomped.
So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the Worst of All Possible Worlds, the first and only podcast that Gerb stomps you into oblivion. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And joining us today, we've got not one, but 2 guests. Incredible.
What?
First, we have a returning champion. They are a co-host of the Kill James Bond podcast, as well as an esteemed podcast editor in many regards. It is Devon. Devon, hello, welcome.
Hello, it's me, Devon, the worst of all possible Devons.
Absolutely. Hey. And joining us for the first time, she is the co-host of the podcast 24 Bauer Party People, and also, along with Devon and myself, one of the co-hosts of the traditional Scrench stream on Twitch. We are joined by Trinket. Trinket, hello.
Hello. I would say that I'm the worst of all possible Trinkets, but I don't think there's any other people called Trinket.
So by default...
Yeah,
you know what? Yeah, I'll take that one.
Trinket, did you and Josh first bond over your shared love/hate of 24? Is that
actually
sort of
did?
There's
Yeah.
only one thing Josh loved more than 24 growing up, and that was Gerbert.
that is not true.
Huge Gerb.
I don't like 24, but the format is that we watch a whole season in one 24-hour block and do the recordings every few hours, right?
Christ.
And it is an endurance thing.
God.
Watching 2 hours of Gerbert was much harder. I had to pause Gerbert and get up and walk around the room at points, like sort of my head in my hands, and come back and sit down
there's
again.
a bomb in downtown Los Angeles. We gotta go get it.
I am the one I know who brought Gerbert into both of your lives, Devon and Trinket, and
Yeah,
I
you
did so on the traditional Scrench stream.
Traditional Scrench.
Here's the thing about being exposed to like a lot of Christian entertainment that I now have been forced to for my job for this podcast.
Yeah.
Which is that this was kind of fine for me. Like I didn't like have a visceral reaction to there's some stuff we can talk about in this, but like in terms of like its overall messaging, I found Odyssey to be much more insidious than Gerbert. And while it's not like, I think my bar for like excellent children's Christian entertainment is VeggieTales, and you can't really, early VeggieTales, I should say, and you can't really top that for me. This, I don't know, he's fine. He's a very annoying puppet, but like the message at the end of the day is a lot better than beat your kids. Do you know what I mean? Like when the bar is in hell, it's pretty easy to just kind of like take a step and clear it.
He wasn't that objectionable. He was interpersonally quite rude.
Yeah, I don't like Gerbert as a person.
I don't know. Like, I think maybe he'll get into heaven. I just think he would be a rough hang.
Sure.
Like, he just doesn't listen.
He's not going to be at the cool kids table in heaven, no.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
I think the other thing is that, like, all right, so I have 2 younger siblings. My mum was a school teacher. I've seen a lot of kids' TV, right? I could be wrong here, but I don't think I've ever seen any Christian kids' TV in the UK.
Okay.
Like, it isn't so much of a thing here. So it was a really weird experience. Like, and also it's edited shit. Like, it's so bad.
Oh, yeah, just the weirdest, worst editing. And we'll get into that whole concept of Christian TV and where Gerbert came from, because it was from this sort of boom that happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, where Christian pastors and others were broadcasting more on the radio and then onto TV, and then on specifically on like these like niche satellite services that were like fed to like churches for a while. and then to regular TV. I don't know if we want to get into all that just yet, but it's a thing.
I think where I'd like to start is that we have now sort of gotten out our gut reactions to Gerbert, but we haven't actually even said who or what is Gerbert. How would we describe him? Who is this? Who are these Gerberts coming down?
He's a sort of miserable little potato with sort of a red cheese string for hair.
Imagine a Muppet that has been stung by like 28 bees.
Yeah.
He is a puppet. That is true. We should get that right across.
Yeah, he's an orange
puppet of a young boy, probably.
And Brian, you were doing some research into like the creation of Gerbert, the puppet itself, and where it came from, right?
Well, and by doing some research, I mean, I really was just listening to an episode of a fantastic podcast called Boys Bible Study, where some boys sit around and they watch Christian movies, and that's the whole show. It's great. So it's like what we do.
I was going to say, is that a good hook for a podcast? Do you think that could sell? I don't know.
Yeah. Imagine if someone did it every week instead of vacillating wildly between different subjects that have almost no relationship.
Couldn't be fucking me, I'll tell you that much. But,
but they've established a relationship with the folks at Everything is Terrible. And Everything is Terrible is, I think, how most people would know what Gerbert is today.
There is one other source. There's a content creator named Brutal Moose, which is actually, funnily enough, where I discovered Gerbert without knowing it. And then midway through the final episode being like, oh, I've seen this before. Why have I seen this before? And it has sort of had this sort of like ironic appreciation recently.
So the Boys Bible Study, through their relationship with Everything is Terrible, actually got Andy Holmes, who is the creator and voice of Gerbert, on their show to talk about the creation of the show, which is where most of my information comes from. So go listen to them. Turn off the podcast.
Brian, no!
do it now!
Hold on, no!
If you were thinking of subscribing to our Patreon, forget it, pal.
This is the first 20 minutes they're going to hear this.
Only 50 episodes of this. I really assumed that this was going to be like a much more, because there are like thousands of Odyssey.
Yeah. Well, it's way
cheaper to produce. Yeah.
It's way more than I thought.
I have a theory about this. I think this is just a labor of love of Andy Holmes, right?
Certainly
I think
partly that,
especially with the editing. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Was there a secular Gerbert?
Yes.
Okay. Because you can tell.
Yeah.
Because they cut so many of it is just it smash cuts to the biblical bit, right? And then it goes back to Gerbert just being an annoying little shit for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and then that's sort of
secular Gerbert.
And I wonder if secular Gerbert was the moneymaker.
We should change this. We could like do all different denominations of Gerbert. We could get Muslim Gerbert. If it's filming the interstitial bits.
Yeah.
Like the moral part.
I was chatting to my wife about this, and she was like, was there different faith Gerberts, do you reckon? And I was like, I reckon I could get Gerbert. I reckon I could like get Gerbert to recite the Shahada.
Even if he didn't want to, he would anyway because he wants to be your friend.
That's right.
So Andy Holmes, this was the 70s. He was a young guy. He might have even just like been a high schooler. He was getting involved in a youth puppet ministry, which is a very common thing. Josh, did you ever do a puppet ministry?
Oh, you know I did a puppet ministry.
I thought so, yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. There's a whole ministry for puppets. They don't have souls.
No, AJ, no, it's not that you're evangelizing
you're
to
ministering
the puppets.
to the puppets?
Yeah.
And these are the guys that release those like compilation CDs.
No.
Obviously not. That's ridiculous. The puppets minister to you.
Right. The idea is you do puppet shows where you minister. It's much like the jump to conclusions mat. The jump to conclusions mat is a mat with conclusions you can jump to. The puppet ministry is a ministry that has puppets that minister to you.
We have Punch and Judy over here, which I will admit is fucked. Punch and Judy has never tried to teach me about religion.
That's one of the great things that America has brought to the world. Is like now we have this guy beating his wife to death, but he's got some scripture that he can let out too.
Exactly.
A lot of times these things are like pre-recorded. And according to Andy Holmes, this was also the case in the 70s. You just put a record on and you're just like lip syncing your puppets to that stuff. That's what my brother did in puppet ministry at our church.
I did the fucking voices.
Of course you did, Josh.
Hell yeah.
What's most amazing about Gerbert is that it's actually, Gerbert wasn't created. He was just, it's like a King Arthur story. He was found and wielded into being. So Andy Holmes was like working on this youth puppet ministry thing, and he finds this little weird yellow puppet, not orange, yellow at this time. And he's like, oh, which puppet is this? And someone says, I think we just called it Gerbert.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, because for me, I thought it was like, okay, so he looked at a bottle of baby food and he said, let's add a T on there. Let's make it Gerbert and then just go along with our day.
That
But
Gerber baby food thing was a big point of confusion for me as a kid because I thought that they were associated with each other in some way.
Oh, that this was like the mascot for Gerber.
Oh, I thought the other way around.
Is there a baby food over there called Gerbert?
Called Gerber.
Oh,
without the T. Yeah.
It's like sorbet.
Fun fact about Gerber baby food, it is made in Fremont, or at least was made in Fremont, Michigan, which is where my grandpa is from. And my grandpa got into final round callbacks to be the Gerber baby.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, that's a little piece of Borman family lore for you there.
But then he botched the final audition.
I think so, yeah. I assume.
love how many fucking concepts getting thrown at me right now. It's really, really good. Puppet ministry, Gerber baby.
I'm learning so much about America.
To become the Gerber baby.
Gerber baby is a huge deal, like the life cereal Mikey.
Sure. Milky Way kid, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah,
I know.
We're doing like sort of American to British translation.
Yeah.
In real time.
Yeah.
Andy Holmes then in the 80s, like he's been working with Gerbert and just sort of, he goes to schools. I don't know what the fuck he's doing, but for a while he has Gerbert in his wheelhouse of like things that he does. And he does these performances and sketches and things. So he eventually modifies this yellow puppet, who was, again, just named this way by someone else, is this figure of myth that simply came into being. This sort of Joseph Campbell, like, we cannot say where it began. It simply is part of humanity.
I really love the thought that, like, someone made this puppet and then just abandoned it, and, like, the people that were with it were like, oh, we'll call this thing Gerbert, and then it becomes, like, this is very, very evocative to me.
Yeah.
I really like this. They just found Gerbert.
Andy Holmes is able to get they call this the pilot. It's not really a pilot. It's just like a single video made. So they were recording songs, and it was like Gerbert sings, a bunch of little Bible songs, and then you can buy them on cassette tape. And they thought, it's going to sell this really well is if we put this on video.
One thing that I found very fun from this era, this is again strictly for the heads.
Yeah.
Sandy Patty. Who was
motherfucker, and you're Sandy Patty.
I had to talk about it. Sandy Patty, who is a Christian singer.
I love the idea that this is just something that Josh talks about all the time. I have never heard. Who is?
I've never had the opportunity to talk about fucking Sandy Patty.
That sounds like a slur for an Irishman at a beach. Why are you? Why are you doing this to me?
This woman is covered in sequins at all times.
This is the most American woman I've ever seen.
Isn't she great? Isn't she fucking great?
Sandy Patty with an I.
We'll have to do an episode about Sandy Patty at some point, and that's a threat, AJ. But
no.
But basically, she did a few children's albums, and on one of them, there's a random song on there that has Gerbert in it.
Yep.
And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? What is
Featuring Gerbert?
Gerbert's on the song. Gerbert on the goddamn track.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they make this video, and then he decides to like add little sketches to it and everything because he felt like that's more fun for a video format. They tape that, and they sell not only the audio cassettes of the songs, but the video cassettes, and those end up selling a lot better.
Of course, because this is the Barney the Dinosaur era, right? Of like,
yes,
put a cassette on. And then your kids shut up and watch Barney for like 2 hours, right? I get it now, and that's why there's so many songs in Gerbert, right?
And that's why it goes on for a full half hour, even though, like in the full tapes, even though the content of the show is not 30 minutes.
This is simultaneously the Barney era and the era of Christian bookstores. And we've talked about this on this show with Scott Benson, with This Present Darkness and the growth of Christian bookstores. So this gets seen by somebody at a channel called Christian Broadcasting Network. CBN was a radio station that was started by two men, two very normal men, two very innocent men, Pat Robertson.
Oh, very normal.
And Jim Baker.
What are you gonna do with the doo-doo?
Jim Baker ends up leaving and starting what was called PTL, short for Praise the Lord, which he founded with his wife, Tammy Faye Baker, who is the ultimate, like, bless her heart. I genuinely love Tammy Faye Baker. She was just this small, frail woman who loved doing puppets and was just not very talented, but had so much heart. And Jim is an evil rapist psychopath. This whole thing starts in the 60s. And then once we get into the 70s, it becomes a TV channel. CBN then branches out further in the 80s by producing original TV shows, including an anime series. 2 anime series, actually.
I'm sorry?
Yes. The Flying House and Superbook, which were actually produced by a Japanese studio in conjunction with Christian Broadcasting Network. Christian Broadcasting Network then pivoted into being the Family Channel. Today, this channel is still on TV called Freeform. It is owned by ABC and Haim Saban. And we talked about this way back in, like, I don't know, our 6th episode, where we talked about Frank Peretti's book, Hangman's Curse, and the TV movie adaptation of it.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I believe that episode is called Autoparetic Asphyxiation.
Yes.
So once we get to the late 80s, they are producing more content to be sold on tape or to be broadcast on their own channels. So Andy Holmes gets a call because someone saw his videotape of Gerbert and is like, hey, we want to turn this into a little series.
Well, and that someone in his accounting was Pat Robertson or somebody connected to Pat Robertson, who
it was Pat's son, Tim Robertson. We're all
trying to find the guy who gerbed this.
Because at this point, this is 1988, Pat Robertson is trying to run for president of the United States.
Right.
Oh my fucking God.
And look, if you get the puppet vote, you know, you're pretty much
You
guaranteed.
guys are rolling in puppets over there. Like, I knew, so...
Well, you know the old saying, as goes Gerbert, so goes America, right?
If you look at like a demographic breakdown of the United States, there's a remarkable amount of puppets in there.
Yeah.
So, and we've got one right here. I'm kidding. So we have.
So the Family Channel shows its broadcast, the 700 Club, the nightly, like, Fox News, but with an extra religious twist to it. Which
still does
broadcasts on Freeform today. Still has, like, the most ironclad contract.
Yep.
Pat Robertson died last year, and it's still just going. What they do during the daytime is they subsidize this by just doing old programming. So they show the old Batman, and they show Happy Days that kind of stuff during the daytime. The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. They have some money to do this broadcast, and they hire an expert. And that expert that they hire to build the Gerbert that we know and love is a man who himself was named Kermit Love.
That Dreamweaver hired to create Gerbert.
Yeah.
And also Big Bird and Oscar the
that's
Grouch.
the thing.
What?
No, Kermit Love was right up there with Frank Oz and Jim Henson, basically from the beginning. He designed Big Bird. I don't think he designed the head. He designed the rest of Big Bird. Co-designed Oscar the Grouch, Cookie Monster. People loved this man so deeply. He was a gay man who made puppets, which means that he's what I should have been had I not squandered every day on this earth the way that I have.
There's still time.
I just want to talk about Kermit Love for a little bit longer because he was also part of the Mercury Theater troupe with Orson Welles. He was a costume designer for them.
He was a marionetteer during the WPA when we were making, federalized theater. He was doing puppet work in New Jersey, but also working as a costume designer and builder for the Mercury Theater.
God damn it, we used to be a proper country.
Yeah, he did Kurt Weill musicals, for Christ's sake. Like the man would speak with a British and French accent despite being born in New Jersey. The man is everything I want to be.
And the way that he would talk about Gerbert was not, I made Gerbert, I designed Gerbert. He is a true puppet man, and he said that he realized Gerbert.
Oh.
I hate to realize Gerbert.
And what a realization, truly.
Devon and I decided we were going to play Elden Ring on the stream. And I managed to surprise Devon by loading in as an almost perfect representation of Gerbert.
It was flawless. That is where Gerb Stomped came from.
Oh, hell yeah.
The moment, Devon, that you're like, Gerbert, no!
What the fuck did you just... Is that a little try my accent there?
I guess.
Gerbert, when I first saw Gerbert roll, I went, blow me down! Fuck you, Gerbert!
What have you done?
It was the intensity. What rings in my head still is the intensity of the no! Fuck!
We had 2 nights previous to this, watched 2 episodes of Gerbert on the stream, and I think... Our chat,
which we will get to,
was so mad.
Our chat did not want to be watching Gerbert that evening.
I remember looking at the Discord after, and there was a sign that someone had changed from the sort of nuclear warning. This is don't dig Gerbert here.
Boy, I hate wandering the lands between.
That's a pretty good
I can't stand being tarnished.
Oh, no. Gerbert runs for sort of 3 seasons. They get 50 episodes produced. Usually in the market that we're talking about on American TV, proper syndication is best gained once you hit 100 episodes. Right, they made it halfway. Classic. Because their sights were set a little differently. They were releasing each episode on VHS tape as well. I thought growing up, this must have been one of those shows like McGee and Me, which we've covered on this show, or the Adventures in Odyssey cartoon, that was just straight to video, no TV in between. Right. Adventures in Odyssey, the cartoon show, the actual TV show, did air on TV a little bit, including on the UK's own Channel 4. But there's only 14 episodes of that.
Wait, the Adventures in Odyssey cartoon was on Channel 4?
Yes, it was.
I've never heard of this.
That's okay. Don't Google it.
I'm assuming if it's worse than Gerbert, I don't want to know.
So I thought that this was just a handful of videos on cassette. And so your average Gerbert audience would be someone who maybe had 1 or 2 of these. I think we had 2. Right. I know for certain that we had 1 because of one very particular segment that we will be talking about today.
It should be noted, this is also then the format that Everything is Terrible dug up as well, because they're all about finding those old tapes.
Old videotapes in a box, yeah. They shot this, Trinket, you nailed this earlier. There is a secular version of this. They can cut out the Bible references, and this aired on American public television. PBS stations in Chicago, all over the country, where they cut the God stuff and they just played it as is. And it was even noted by various publications as one of the top tier shows for preschoolers at the time.
You guys had a dearth of kids TV then, because
we did not.
We didn't.
No, we really didn't.
No, it cut through.
If this is one of the best ones, I don't know.
It wasn't.
It's no.
We had not the best, but one of the most popular.
We had Lamb Chops. Are you kidding me? We had
Lamb Chops. Oh yeah.
We had Wishbone, for Christ's sake.
Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Dressed like Sherlock Holmes.
I grew up almost entirely on Oliver Postgate stuff, right? So Ivor the Engine, Clangers, Bagpuss, things of this nature. Clangers. It's a hard bar to clear, I think, for me. All of British kids TV is that's bloody lovely, right? That's the vibe that we're going for.
We did not have a dearth of children's programming. we had an oversaturation of it.
Yeah.
And
Right,
so much
okay.
so that you could have niche markets. You could have these studios that are producing things like VeggieTales or Gerbert.
Let's roll that theme song, shall
Okay,
we?
here
This
we go.
is the Gerbert
Let's
theme.
I just gotta say I wanna spend my day with you. You are my best friend, I wanna share the things you do. Ooh, baby, you make me smile. Bebop-a-dee-da-da-ooh-ooh, wow. I just wanna spend my day with you. I just wanna spend my day with you.
It does kind of feel like this was a first draft in order to get the melody.
Yeah.
And then they were just like, who cares?
This is the only part of the show that feels like a first draft.
It's a pretty good melody, though. I think it works all right. It's just they didn't get it there.
Yeah, later episodes, you're in like a CGI aquarium while all this is going on.
I think what's so interesting is that like there's 3 different intros over the course of even the 4 episodes we watched. There are 3 different intro sequences.
Well, because each of them is from a different season of the show. Because there were 3 production seasons, and each of them has a different credit sequence.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like that money could have gone towards other things. Like, I don't know, paying the mom actress so she had a head.
AJ,
that would have helped.
I think the reason for that is that it is weird that Gerbert seems to have a human mother.
Well, we don't. Okay, so here's the thing.
that.
She's
Yeah, we don't
Gerbert's
know
mother.
that.
I don't know.
We can't say for sure.
I think they don't show it deliberately.
We don't know if she's the height of an average human mother.
No, she is approximately the size of an average human mother.
Okay.
Yes, she is. But what we don't know is whether or not she is human because we never see her head. We never see her hands.
Wait, Josh, are you imagining
do you
that
not?
she
I
is
thought we saw her
half
hands.
Gerbert? She is half woman, half
Is
Gerbert?
she half Gerbert?
Yes.
She might be an adult-sized like Gerbert, essentially.
That's also what I thought.
It's
Josh.
possible. It's possible.
Fuck you both.
No,
I hate that you have
I-
planted these thoughts in our heads.
Well, because that's the thing, right? I know that the reason why they did it was it's just like, so Gerbert could be anyone, you know, like
Right.
any kid watching this could be like, oh, Gerbert could be me because we don't necessarily see what the mom looks like. So it could be like, oh, that's like my mom or whatever. But the effect is so uncanny and strange because all of Gerbert's friends are full people.
All of his friends are adults, too.
They're all yes.
So you see every adult except for Gerbert's, I guess, single mother.
I'm going to be honest. The theory that started developing in my brain was that this is a normal woman, and the dad was a Gerbert.
Sure.
Yeah.
Also
it's
possible.
yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot of puppets just in America, you know?
Apparently,
It happens. They just walk around like, this is a completely normal family, Trinket.
Yeah, you know what? Fine. Like, I'm not judging. I just, like, that's what I thought the dynamic was here. She's coming around sort of holding up the dad. Now, Gerbert.
Mom, don't fist dad in front of the company.
So why you never see her hands, because she's got Gerbert's dad.
Jeez. Elbow deep in Gerbert's dad.
Okay.
The whole time. Okay. Yeah, now this is crystallizing.
This is making sense.
Yeah.
No, we don't actually ever get concrete information about Gerbert's dad, but I did pull a clip of Gerbert and his mom. So let's just roll that real quick.
Okay, Rory, say ah.
He has a toy lion named
Yep.
Rory.
Yep, just what I was afraid of.
Oh, God.
You've got jungle fever.
Oh.
I can tell. Get it, Till? Yeah. Well, it looks like I'm gonna have
I
to
don't
give
get
you
it.
a shot.
I'll explain it.
Come in.
Gerbert,
Yes,
Miles
ma'am.
is here.
Oh,
I'll
great.
be back in a little while to take you to the doctor for your checkup, all right?
Well, you know what, Mom? I've been thinking, I really don't have to see the doctor today because I'm not sick or anything.
It's only a checkup, Gerbert. Be back soon.
So Gerbert says, I can tail. You get it? Tail.
Oh,
because his Texas
He's the king of the
accent,
jungle as well.
tell
Right.
and tail
Right.
sound
Okay.
exactly the same. They're
But it's
homophones.
really hard to tell
They
with
are.
Gerbert's
It
voice
is.
that's
Yeah.
the accent that he's doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
well,
you hear
it's-
the Texas accent in the song. You kind of hear it in this scene, but most of the time that this show is running, people are like masking their Southern accent. So the first
Yeah.
season is shot
Right.
in Virginia. That's where CBN's headquarters were, Family Channel's headquarters were. And then the second and third seasons are shot in Dallas. And the creator is a Texan. He has this very, very thick Texas accent.
Okay.
So and it doesn't, but like he's masking it most of the time. Yeah.
This explains something, because I will admit that after the first episode of this, I couldn't deal with one time speed Gerbert. I had to put it in 2 times speed to watch the second episode. And what I realized is if you listen to Gerbert normally, right, listen to this.
Yeah. That's right.
Right? And then if you listen to Gerbert at 2 times speed, he sounds Australian.
That's right.
That's because Andy Holmes is trying to mask that Texas thing because he wants to say that's right. And so he's like,
that's right. That's right.
That's I've got another clip of 2 times speed Gerbert here just to sort of bring for a bit longer. Like,
please. And then when it happened to me, I knew how I made Melissa feel.
Oh my God!
So good.
He's Australian.
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.